Welcome to Mexico. My name's Josephine Hedger. I'm the UK Ambassador for Teufelberger. We're here prepping for the tree climbing championship that's this weekend, and just going to take the opportunity to show you some techniques of setting a cambium saver from the ground, accessing the tree using a stationary rope system, and then how we can transfer that into a moving rope system to work around the canopy, and just a few techniques as well just to help your working day. So I've installed my throw line, and the first thing I want to do is attach my rope. Now, before I put the splice on my carabiner here, I've installed my FImblCLIMB, and you see I've got the rope going through one of the thimbles. At the moment it doesn't really matter which of the thimbles I go through. For the moment I've just gone through the smaller thimble. Splice has gone through that, and then I've clipped it onto my throw line. Then you can forget about it. Check your throw lines aren't all twisted, and then just install the rope, and just let the cambium saver just flop where your rope bag is. So the advantage of putting the cambium saver in and sending it to the top of the tree for a tip tie is I could just put, let's say, a running bowline up there. The trouble is with that, I've got rope on rope, so there's potential for, as I'm pulling it up and down, for rope burn on the rope itself. So obviously some rope conflict while I'm going up there, so I might want some hardware in there just to get rid of that rope on rope conflict. The other advantage is it sends the cambium saver up to the top of the tree ready. It's another piece of gear I haven't got to take up with me on my harness, so it's already at the top of the tree installed for my changeovers. All right, so we've got our climbing line up and over the tree, and then what you want to do is just drop the splice through the other ring, or the other thimble. Just make sure that we haven't got this all twisted round like this, okay? So I'm just going to check that the thimbles are laying flat, and I'm going the same way. Notice I'm not going up or they're twisted, so it's just going straight down the same way. And I'm going to pull a bit of slack through, and then I'm just going to tie a stopper knot. So there's varied knots I could tie in there. I'm just going to tie an alpine, and then with an alpine, ideally you want to back that up. Most people will put a carabiner through there and clip that through. Because it's the end of the rope, I just tend to put the tail end through, which will lock it off. And then the next thing I'll do before I pull that up is put another climbing line and attach it to the end of my splice. So the reason for that is that when I pull this up, if I didn't put a retrieval line on here, as this went up, if a branch or deadwood got caught between them, I'm stuck, yeah? I can't pull it right back up to the anchor point. So by having this other line on here, as I pull this up, let's say I made a mistake or it flips in between some branches, if I need to pull this back, reset because I made a mistake, I can do, okay? It doesn't have to be a climbing line. I like to have a climbing rope, mainly because once it's up in the canopy, I can use it as a second attachment point. It can also be used from a rescue point of view, so I can install this for rescue afterwards. And also somebody could, if the anchor point is sufficient enough, come up on that line as a rescue line. So what we've got now is this is floating. So I'm going to pull this up so it sits up against the anchor point. Pull that all the way up. And you can either tie your hitch on afterwards, or if you've got a mechanical device, you can take the slack in as you go. And then with all anchor points, your first initial anchor point, just make sure you're happy with the loading of it. So check we've got nothing in between. It cinches right up against the anchor point, like that. Make sure you're happy with that. And then ideally just get a 2-person load. So we get 2 of us on here, not bouncing on it, but just put a constant load on there and just check that the cambium saver is cinched nicely, and then we're happy that the anchor point is strong enough. Now I'm happy that the anchor point is set. Tie my hitch on here, or whatever mechanical device we've got on the rope. Put our system on, and then I'll show you how we can transfer that to a moving rope system. Okay, so I've come up on my stationary line system, but what I need to do to get a good anchor point is to move it up. So I'm going to use my lanyard so I can transfer off of this system, but I'm pretty happy working the canopy on a moving rope system, so I'm just going to show you how I can change that around. So I'm just going to pop in a new lanyard position. Oh. And because the lanyard is above me now, you'll notice that I've put the connection points at the front lower Ds rather than at the side Ds, so I'm in the most appropriate position for suspension. Okay, so just starting to transfer my load, so this is now loose. I might just go one more, make sure I'm happy with that. Okay, so now you can see the system that I came up on, which is this stationary side, is now loose. My retrieval line, I'm just going to take that off and slow that to the side. Because I'm now going to use a moving rope system, whatever device I came up on, if it's a rope wrench or a chicane, for example, I'm going to take that off. And you'll also notice I keep the carabiner on the device. Just that makes that nice and quick and easy. Create some slack. And then I just need to undo the knots that I did up here. Now, I'm quite close to my top anchor point. If I had quite a low initial anchor point and I felt like I needed to climb up a lot higher, so I do a couple of changeovers, this setup's really nice and easy. You'll see in a moment, once I take the thimble climb off, and I'm going to use that again in a moment, so just store that out of the way. Now you'll notice, because I've set it up this way round, my hitch, or my zigzag in this case, is here next to my ice splice. So I haven't got lots of rope to pull up and over. It's nice and quick and easy. If I needed to do a few quick changeovers, just get a spare carabiner into that device, load that one, take off the lanyard, and then just keep doing that till we achieved our top anchor point. So here I'm relatively quite close. I'm just going to put my new anchor point in here. So if I'm more comfortable working around the canopy on a moving rope system, but the initial part of the climb is much easier on stationary, this is already up here. I can now install this into a double or a moving rope system here. Just being careful about thinking about how I'm going to retrieve it. So I retrieve with the ice splice, so I've gone through the small thimble, then through the big. Then when I come to retrieve it later, once I've finished, my retrieval ball will go through the big and then through the small. A couple of things just to think about when setting this up for moving rope system is don't have the thimbles murder tight up against the stem. Allow a little bit of movement. A couple of advantages for that is as I work around the canopy, you can see how that will basically follow me around. If it's too tight up against there, as I come round I'm going to create friction, so it just makes my movement a bit easier. less friction on the ropes, me, and obviously the tree. And also there's a bit more of an advantage when I come to retrieve it. If this is a little bit longer, it has a flick, and then it will retrieve nicer and less likely to get caught in that fork there. So once I'm happy that that's installed, I'm ready to now take off my lanyard, check and load this before I disconnect it. And then I've got a couple of options here. My retrieval line, I can now leave this over the tree. I could send that down to my ground staff. I could put in another cambium saver. Basically, for a rescue scenario, if I'm thinking about rescue, thinking about my ground staff, I would set this up in whatever system that they would prefer to ascend on. I may already have an access line down there. The other thing I can do with it is I can use it as a retrieval line if I didn't want this just to free fall out of the tree. So, for example, here, I might just chuck this somewhere, slightly above or slightly to the side. And then what I've got on the end of mine, I've just got a small piece of cord that I tend to clip into. So it could be that. You can clip in just above the thimble, in between the OP loops. So we can clip in there. And then all that means is if I'm over tarmac or I didn't want my cambium saver to get stuck halfway down, when I retrieve it, this will fall out, catch on here, and then I can pull it out. So I've got a couple of options there. So now I can just transfer my load back onto this moving rope system, check I'm happy with that, and then I'm ready to go to work. Easy peasy. Right, so once we've come down to the ground, we can retrieve our thimble climb. So just make sure we've got the right retrieval ball for the tool that you've used up there. So I've just got the small retrieval ball or cone. That goes into the splice. I'm just going to check it's not all twisted, so that looks good. And now I can pull down on this side, sends the splice up. And then remember, I've got this green line, I've got my tachyon here as my safe retrieval. So as it gets caught on the small thimble, I can hold this and then it will pull the whole system down safely.